First of all, you have to recognize that often topics that people try to choose for research papers are very, very broad. So if you can talk about your topic in fewer than 5 words, your topic is too broad. What's your topic for your research paper? Church history. Too broad. What's your topic for your research paper? Jonathan Edwards. Too broad. What's your topic for your research paper? Right? So if you have, if you can say it in just a few words, your topic is too broad. So what do you do in order to address that? Well, you can add nouns. So instead of just Jonathan Edwards, the views on emotion. Jonathan Edwards' views on emotion. And that still might be a little bit too broad, but what I've done is I've started to add nouns to these words I have that are trying to narrow it. Right? Adding verbs might be also helpful. What is it that this particular thing does? Right? How Jonathan Edwards' views on the emotion shape early Christianity, or Christianity in the early United States. And so thinking about working through these things, narrowing your topic down, it's also helpful in narrowing your topic to make a claim. What are you trying to claim about this particular person, passage, religious movement, religious phenomena, biblical author? But there's also the danger that you can become too narrow. Information that might not be available. So let's say something like John's usage of a particular word in the book of Revelation might be too narrow, depending on what word. Because there's a lot of words in the book of Revelation that only appear once in the entire New Testament, let alone in the book of Revelation. And so if you've narrowed it that far, then you've probably gone too far. Now, if you wanted to say John's usage of the word lamb in the book of Revelation, that might not be too narrow because that's used several times. But if you pick a specific topic, you could get too narrow, where you couldn't find information about that topic. So you have to be careful of going too far the opposite way, being too broad or being too narrow. And that is where sometimes the actual process of reading, asking questions, is going to help you determine what information is out there, what's significant, what's not significant. So there are a couple of things to think about. In thinking about your topic, while you might be required to do a 10-page research paper or a 15-page research paper, you should be able to state your topic very succinctly and very quickly. And you should be able to think about it in the context of, let's say I'm on an elevator with somebody, and they ask me what I'm doing for my research paper. I should be able to tell them you think about the amount of time it takes for an elevator to go down a number of flights. I should be able to tell them in that process what my topic is. So how do I go about that? Well, first of all, thinking about naming the topic. I am studying blank. Right? So you should be able to start off with, right, what is it you're studying? I'm studying the woman taken in adultery passage. Okay, you've kind of given me a little bit, but we're not quite to a topic yet. And so part of that should also then include the question you're investigating. Right? I'm studying the woman taking adultery passage, because I want to find out, what is it you want to find out? Whether or not that passage belongs in the Gospel of John. And then also being able to state your rationale. In order to understand how, or in order to understand why, whatever it is. So, in thinking about submitting your research topic on Thursday, this would be a good way to say, I'm studying such and such because I want to find out this other thing in order to understand. Good way to kind of think about what is it that I should be submitting for this particular assignment, but also being able to talk about this topic with your professor. Right? Professor, I need some help with my paper. Okay, well, what are you doing? What are you studying? I'm studying this thing because I want to find out this other thing in order to understand the other thing. And so being able to state your topic in just a few words, as far as like a sentence like this, will be helpful for you in thinking about what kind of information do I need to discover. Now, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish with this project? What problem am I really investigating? But it also begins to get you to think about the issue of significance. What does the term significance mean? All right, so significance usually has to do with the issue of importance, why something matters. So, first of all, research should be something that interests you. But second of all, it should be something that's significant. And if you're not able to say why something is significant, why are you wasting your time doing this? Why have to get a grade? Well, yeah, but you could be researching a bunch of other things that could be interesting to you, that could be significant, that would be more than just, well, I need to get a grade. And so thinking about some things about, all right, why is this topic significant to you? And I'm doing the woman taking adultery. Why is that significant to you, personally? Well, it's not really. All right, well, then pick another passage. But not only thinking about why this is significant to me, I also need to think about, for research, why would this be significant to somebody else? Why would this matter? And again, this is an important aspect when thinking about not just doing your research paper for courses, but thinking about as you're working in ministry, when people come up to you with questions that you haven't thought of, that you don't have a ready answer to. What is the significance of answering this question? Is it going to help this person's faith? Is it going to provide them some greater benefit? Move them closer to Christ? Or is it that they're just trying to stall making a decision for Christ? Or they're trying to avoid some other particular issue? Right? And so thinking about significance can be important not just in making sure you're joining your research paper, but also in thinking about the kinds of things that will come up in ministry. But when it comes to a research paper, or really any sort of research problem, one thing to think about is your implied audience. Who is it I'm writing for? Who do I think will be interested in this? And this is an important concept even when you think about doing a Bible class or preaching a sermon or something, or giving a lesson or something like that. If you are giving a lesson and you know everybody in your audience is going to be Christian, is it really a good use of your time to be talking about how to become a Christian in your lesson, when you know everybody in the audience is already Christian? Or are there better things that you can be doing in the limited time you have to share that idea, right? And so if you're doing a Bible class on John, and you already know people believe in inspiration, well, do you really need to spend that much time talking about that when it comes to John chapter 8? And so thinking about who's the target audience for this paper, this lesson, this bulletin article, is important beyond just the issue of research. So research is a process. It's a systematic process. It involves not just gathering data, but interpreting data as well. But it also involves certain types of thinking that you might not be used to doing. And so when we come to a research problem, we also have to be aware of certain things related to thinking through a research project. First is objectivity. Once I've determined what my research problem is, I need to be objective about that. Especially if it's something related to something that you feel very strongly about. Right? So if you feel, as I hope you do, that the Bible is inspired by God, when I come to passages like Mark 16, John chapter 8, where there is a question of manuscript variance, that even though I feel that the Bible is inspired, that it's the Word of God, I want to be objective in looking at this evidence and determining, does this passage belong there or not? Because if it doesn't belong there, then it might not be useful for me to teach from it. And so, but if I already have the predisposition that, well, it belongs there or it doesn't belong there, and I'm not objective, I could lead myself to the wrong conclusions. I could lead other people to the wrong conclusions. That could be of a significant variety. And so research thinking requires you to be as objective as possible. Research thinking also requires focus. It is not easy to go through commentaries, journal articles, other type of information in a clear focus for any significant amount of time. As far as like hours upon hours. Some people are able to do it, most of us aren't. But when I set aside the time to do that, I need to be focused on what I'm doing. And so any type of research thinking you involve yourself in, whether that's examining a source, whether that's creating your argument, you have to force yourself to be focused. Research thinking also involves a recognition of the presuppositions that you have. What is it that I bring to the table when I'm studying these kind of subjects? That is things that could be shaped by your religious background. It could be things shaped by your personal background. It could be baggage that you carry. You might not be able to get rid of all of that in trying to be objective, but you have to recognize those kind of things, especially if you're thinking about, I'm communicating this to an audience who might not share my same presuppositions. So, for example, if you got to a point where you were doing academic research and you decide, I want to publish this in a top-of-the-line journal in biblical studies. There are going to be a lot of people in biblical studies who do not believe the Bible is inspired by God. So they don't share your presuppositions when it comes to that. So you have to recognize that in yourself, but also perhaps in your audience, which means taking some self-investigation, taking a look at some of the things and being careful that those things don't shape negatively what you are investigating on. Research thinking also involves organization, grouping things together, separating things together, creating different categories, creating different groups based on the data. Right? So while you might not be the most organized type of person, you have to force yourself to be organized to accomplish research that is useful. And then finally, you should also, in your thinking, have humility. While all of us would like to believe that we come to the right conclusions, that we can be objective, that we, while other people might be shaped by their presuppositions, I'm not. Now, we need to come to any sort of issue like this with humility, that we could be wrong. And so, in thinking about these kind of things, you always have to have that humble spirit as much as possible, encouraging humility in yourself. Because, first of all, you have to recognize you don't know everything. Second of all, you have to realize that there might be some information that you could be that could be useful to you. So I'm doing, I got to do this paper on the Gospel of Matthew, and there's nothing I could learn or be taught from that because I know so much about it. You're not approaching it with a spirit of humility. And so research thinking needs to have humility to it. Too many people in biblical scholarship are not humble in their thinking through research, but then also in that presentation of research. When you're presenting that to somebody, especially thinking, let's say, of a ministry type of context, where your presentation is just going to be a one-on-one discussion with the kid that's asked you the question. If you're not humble with that person, that could either put them off, upset them, separate them from you, right, to cause more damage, even though you might have the right answer. Right? So humility is important, especially in thinking about how I'm presenting that information. We'll talk some more about topics and research and thinking about what research is and some of the things related to research thinking. And then also talk on Wednesday about methods. What are some methods I use or can be used in biblical studies? And so we'll pick that up on Wednesday.